Hello, and welcome to PeppTalks with Jeanne. I'm your host, Jeanne Pepper. I started doing PeppTalks as a way to inspire you to do intentional acts of kindness and to further the goals of #BlazeItForward. Over the past 6 years, PeppTalks evolved. I now use it for interviewing people actively making a difference in this world through their volunteerism, community service, or careers. My guests are all here because they have dedicated their lives to making this world a better place. Join us as we delve into the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of these truly inspiring and hardworking people. Today, my guest is Gideon Bernstein. Gideon Bernstein is the author of Giving, A Guide to the Modern Philanthropist. He's also the volunteer chairman of the Jewish Community Foundation of Orange County. He has a history of doing community service in Orange County, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that today and what got him so involved in doing community service. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. We've had you here before, and last time we talked a lot about your book, so we'll skip over that today, and we're going to just head right into the juicy stuff. You have been actively involved in community service really your whole life. I mean, I've known Gideon because he's my husband since we were in high school. And in high school, Gideon was a leader and he also did a lot of community service. Can you tell us about that? Like even the very beginnings?
The very beginnings. Probably the first thing that I ever got involved with in leadership was in a youth group back in junior high and high school. I was recruited to be on a little board for a Jewish youth group called United Synagogue Youth. And I think that was the first time that I got a sampling of what it meant to really not just be a follower and involved in organizations, but actually to turn to leadership and help to create a wonderful experience for other people.
What incentivized you?
Well, I think that there were people that were involved in the organization that were looking to draw younger talent into leadership positions because leadership also equals engagement. So it was some of the youth leadership and some of the directors that were in charge of the youth that were trying to recruit. So I actually give them credit for helping to start that journey. And I think it was a really clever way of getting me more involved.
So that is a way that we can get teenagers more involved in community service as their parents, as adults that are interested in having more community service and having our families involved in it is actively get your kids involved in youth groups.
For sure. Not only getting involved, but also having the right people that are running the organization to help keep the children involved.
That's right. And keeping kids busy is really important. I think that's something we learned as parents, that when kids are busy, they're not getting in as much trouble.
Yeah, usually. Or at least they're happier because they're engaged. They have people that show them that they want them without any strings attached.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I know, like, for our kids too, like our boys would have been very happy just sitting in the rooms, you know, reading or playing video games all day. And we kind of had to force them out of their little introverted world and get them more involved. And they were always really happy when they were doing community service. Like they always enjoyed being around other people. They just kind of had to be pushed a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they're naturally going to gravitate towards big groups of people helping. But they still enjoy it. So, you know, even if you're not like a big group person, you got to try it at least once and see if it appeals to you, because there's a lot of different things you can do in community service. You can be a leader like Gideon, or you can go to Second Harvest, which is a local community service organization that feeds the homeless. So there's a lot of different types of community service. One of the things that you are known for, particularly in Orange County, is sort of revitalizing the Jewish Community Foundation of Orange County. Now, we are going to have the executive director of that organization as one of our guests on the show in the next couple of months. So, and she'll be talking about what she's done there, but tell us a little bit about how that happened. Like, how did you fall into that role and what were you able to accomplish quickly once you got in there?
The Jewish Community Foundation of Orange County was started in the early 80s, and we moved to Orange County in the mid 90s, and kind of found our way into getting involved in the Jewish community just through meeting people. And one of the folks that we met was one of our friends now, Rich Gallis. And Rich at the time was the chair of the Jewish Community Foundation. So like in the early 2000s, he asked me if I wanted to start to get involved and become the chair of the Jewish Community Foundation's investment committee. Mm-hmm. So I think that was the start of my journey of getting involved with the organization. And at the time, it was a small fledgling foundation. Its job was to help to distribute grants to organizations in Orange County and beyond that were primarily Jewish, but it didn't really matter with regards to a lot of the dollars that were going out from donors. And what's interesting about the organization is that it was really just a philanthropic bank for quite a while. And when I became chair, I was working with a few other people on the board trying to find out how do you make an organization relevant after many years of it really struggling, trying to find its way and to become financially viable. Like the big question that you start asking that I learned from other people is, what can you do to make this organization relevant? And we decided to look at other organizations and try to imitate other ones that had a lot of success. And the one program that we found that was really successful was starting up in San Diego at their Jewish Community Foundation. And at the time, there was a woman there that was involved. Her name was Gail Littman.
Can we talk about dates? Like, can you give us an idea of like what year this was? Was this around 2000?
It was around 2008, 2009.
Okay. So this was a good 15 years ago, 15, 16 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, about 16 years ago.
So, philanthropy takes time sometimes. You have to be in it for the long haul. You want to make a big difference in the world.
Yeah. And so and actually the whole concept of what we were looking at doing was really planting seeds that really would not come to fruition and turn into a tree and start fruiting for 15 to 20 years. So we knew the program that Gail Littman was starting, which was a legacy program, trying to get community members to write the name of organizations and charities in their will. When they died, money would go to those organizations and be endowed to perpetuate the organization's financial stability.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember too, at the time that you were getting involved in that, we were very involved at that time in the Community Scholars Program in Orange County. And the leader of that organization, Ari Katz, who I hope to have on the show someday, he was complaining that as donors were dying, their heirs were not leaving gifts.
They weren't supporting the organizations anymore.
Yeah.
And, so we saw that as a big problem, and also saw that it had been a very successful program in different, iterations around the country. Why is it that cities back east that have deep roots have much larger endowments and funding for their programs? Because they started 50, 60, 70 years ago on talking to their donors about leaving legacies. And so this turned from like a great idea by Gail, who unfortunately passed away right at the apex of launching this whole national legacy program, into a program that now has well over $1 billion of legacy commitments around the country. Wow. And so I won't go into details of it, but her planting the seed has now created hundreds of millions of dollars of funding for Jewish organizations and well over $1 billion nationally of future gifts that will come. But it was a leap of faith because there's a lot of money being invested by our organization, by the Jewish Community Foundation of Orange County, and now well over 50 organizations around the country that got involved in the same program of investing millions of dollars in educating all of the nonprofits in their communities on how to talk to their donors about leaving a legacy and how important it was, and educating all of the folks that were lay leaders and professionals on how to explain to donors that even if you do make a large commitment, that it's not going to affect your kids' inheritance. It's not going to change anybody's life. It's like adopting another child, called, charitable giving. On top of the heirs that are going to receive the majority of your money, you could leave 10% behind for your, black sheep child, or for your nonprofit, however you want to describe it.
Yeah.
And so that education and all those investments in the programs yielded an incredible return on philanthropic investments. So that's been quite a journey that was started back in, like you could say, 2008, 2009. And so our organization got involved in it, and we went from an entity that had less than 20 million in philanthropic dollars that we were handling, to now over $100 million 15 years later.
$100 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's an endowment. So you don't really touch that money, right?
Yeah. So the nice byproduct of this program is that it creates more donor engagement. They become more trusting of our organization and want to find other ways to be able to give more money now. Mm-hmm. So not only is it endowed funds, this is all philanthropic dollars that are in donor advised funds and organizational accounts. And so we've got a lot of nonprofits that are parking their money with the foundation now, along with individual donors, families, and family foundations that are using the donor advised fund as a parallel giving platform to their private foundations as well.
Wow. That is really incredible that you were able to capture like all of that momentum in philanthropy and focus it towards the Jewish community in a really profound way that will help people for generations. Because, and this is for any organization out there, really. It doesn't have to be a Jewish organization, but any organization out there needs to have a legacy plan, because unless you're going to see a new batch of donors every few years, the ones that you have are going to be your biggest supporters, even in their death, potentially.
Yeah, and we know that with very, very conservative assumptions that there's at least $25 million of future endowments that will be created because of all the work that's been done here in Orange County, California. And the key to all this is the people. At the end of the day, a process like this to create is to have a very stable group of leaders and professionals that are involved. So on a national level, there's a woman who took over Gail's role for the Harold Grinspoon Foundation's program on this project called Create a Jewish Legacy, now called Life and Legacy. And Arlene Schiff took it over and ran it on a national level to work with organizations like ours. And then the other requirement was that you had a good local executive that could run it also. And in our case, we got very, very lucky to hire a reformed attorney, Wendy Aronson, who left her job in the legal world to actually come and run the Jewish Community Foundation of Orange County. And she was really the person who really executed and was the secret sauce to make it as great of a program as it's become here.
Yeah, she's a really multi-talented, very hardworking, very dedicated. I mean, I think Wendy could do anything. And I'm really glad that she landed at the Jewish Community Foundation of Orange County, because she's been such an asset. She's such a great model, or role model even, for our community. She is a great example of how doing something that you love can actually be profitable and can help you support your family, support your life, and make you feel good about what you do. So
yeah, well, the cool thing for her was, we found somebody who really wanted to make philanthropy and working in the Jewish community a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like for her, it was just so easy looking back on it now to have her as the leader of the organization, because we knew that everything was integrated in her life with regards to her passion and her connectivity to a wide variety of individuals and donors. And, just like any religion, not everybody sees eye to eye. But when they look at Wendy, they see somebody who actually can look at people at all the different levels of giving and religious affiliation. So it's really magical to have her as the executive director for the organization and also the person that really made this stuff happen.
Yeah, and Wendy is, we're going to have her as our guest soon, but she's not only, she's also a very good friend of ours. Like, we've known Wendy for a long time. We were actively involved with her, with our kids in the community, Jewish Community Foundation, Community Scholars Foundation. And we did a lot of camping with her, with our kids over the years. Yeah. So, she's been very actively involved in this local community, but
but not professionally.
Not professionally until that point in time. And she's so good at it. So, yeah, I think anybody that has a passion for helping people, getting involved in your local religious community or whatever your local communities are, maybe it's your school, your PTA, whatever it may be, getting involved can lead to other things. If that's what your passion is, it can become a career.
Yeah.
So, and it's been a really kind of a magical journey for me watching you be so successful with this. When we started this, you started this in 2008, 2009, we had young kids. I think, Blaze was probably about 10 years old. And, Bowie was 5 years younger than Blaze, and we had Jay in the middle there. So our kids were like right at that point in their lives where, they had a lot of activities. We were, driving all over the place. You were a Cub Scout leader. You were a soccer referee for AYSO. We had kids in religious school. Blaze had his bar mitzvah 2 years later. So, we were very, very active, busy parents, but you still managed to find the time to do this. Did it ever feel like it was too much?
It was stressful at times, when you're trying to fix problems. Mm-hmm. And there were challenges with the organization because it wasn't really self-sustainable. So we had a pretty good balance sheet, but in order to grow the organization, we really need to find a way to increase the revenue so that we could afford everything that we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And also going through 2008 and starting at that point in time of being involved with the organization at a time where the whole world was on the verge of a pretty big economic collapse and not knowing when things were going to turn around, and especially in the depths of it, it was hard. It was really super stressful on top of work and everything else, trying to figure out how to navigate all those things and be able to make good decisions and not react to things, because we saw outside organizations making decisions that were emotional and reactionary at a time where they really should have just been, sitting on their hands. And, so there were economic and financial repercussions for that for some organizations that we, we're looking at and just going, gosh, it's the wrong person at the wrong time to make the wrong decision. But
we saw Federation here in Orange County going through a lot of transition at that time too.
Yeah. So there's a lot of organizations that were going through challenges. So it was stressful, but sometimes they call it the labor of love, especially the volunteer things that you do. And it's really nice when you can actually look back on it and actually celebrate having successes and having really great mentors around to help guide you. So we had some board members that were like really incredible business people, and a few people that were challenging also, but the mentorship from people like Ralph Stern, who's a big philanthropist in our community, he was incredibly supportive and really helped give me guidance and helped me to understand the right questions to ask, and was always up there at the table and willing to help out in any way that he could to help make good decisions. Mm-hmm. So folks like that, Carl Katz, he was really helpful. Both of them helped me out a lot in doing strategic planning for the foundation when we were trying to make all this stuff happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you made it happen.
Yeah.
100 million under assets now within the bank. Jewish bank, and you're just not planning on leaving your position anytime soon, I'm guessing. Or are you?
Well, I mean, I've been the leader of the organization for quite a while. So at some point in time, in order to keep an organization healthy, you have to have some refresh. And I think that for organizations that are struggling, it's really good to have a very stable board leadership. You can't really make an impact in 2 years on an organization and then just turn over to another leader and expect that you're going to continue to be able to go in the same direction. You have to give it a much longer runway. And I feel like we've given it a very long runway to be able to get the organization to a very successful place. And it is time for change and trying to get the governance and board work to a place where we have a much better structure for the organization. So we're working on that now.
So those are the challenges going forward then?
Yeah, it's the board governance and it's the board leadership and finding good people, recruiting people to be on there. We have a great team. So I'm happy to have other people fill that role. And I'm most interested in being involved in doing strategic work with the organization and helping it to grow in different ways.
So for people that are running foundations right now who do not have a legacy plan for their organization, what is your recommendation for them? How do they start that? How do they get going?
Well, I think that first of all, if you don't have a legacy plan, you're making a big mistake, because the legacy gifts are shown to be huge multiples of whatever your annual giving is. So if you have a donor that's giving you $1,000 a year to be a member of your organization or whatever gift they are, the legacy gifts can be 10 to 100 times that amount if they really love your organization. So we're talking about $100,000 gifts or larger. And unfortunately, they usually come when your donors pass away. But if you're not having those conversations now, you're missing out, because other organizations are. And they're putting those organizations in their will and their trust. And guess what? If you're the one that actually approaches them, they're going to thank you the most for helping them to do that work.
That is a great tip.
Yep.
A great tip. Yeah, when I first heard about this program, I was like, how is it that it took this long for something like this to come along? But it really took like a complete change in the way that that Jewish communities look at their futures, because I don't believe that there was a thought about the future. It was just survival for a lot of these organizations. Just paying their bills and keeping their programming going was all that they were thinking about. Not like, well, 20 years from now. They were thinking next year, will I even be here? So why bother with a 20-year plan?
Yeah, I think it's really easy just to wake up every day and just say, okay, what am I going to do today? But this is like a recipe with a very long, you could say, preparation process that requires a lot of structure. And so if you're not willing to I don't have the patience to try to make something in the kitchen that's going to take 3, 4, or 5 hours or a day or whatever the timing is, where you basically make one ingredient and you mix it and then you have to wait another 3 hours and you come back to it and then you have to, and legacy planning is the same thing, but we're talking about 10 years or 20 years of work. And then you have to break it down into, the months and the years of how you actually go through that process with your biggest fans of your organization, to steward them into a process that creates that result. So you have to commit to it. I can't commit to making souffle because I just don't have the patience for it. So, but for legacy planning, it's the same type of analogy.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you have other plans for philanthropy once you leave the Jewish Community Foundation of Orange County someday down the road. Have you given much thought to that?
Well, I always want to stay involved with the organization and do other things. So, that's definitely something that is a passion, and I love working with the people. And so For me, right now, that's where most of my time and energy, I think, is going to remain. And helping to support other organizations, though, was great. Talking about philanthropy, motivating and inspiring people to do it, giving them examples of like how amazing it can be and how rewarding it feels to be able to help other people on a grassroots level, on an individual level. Those are all great too.
Absolutely. One of the biggest philanthropic endeavors that I've ever engaged in with you has been our hashtag Blaze It Forward campaign, which we started several years ago. Do you want to talk about how that started?
Sure. So I think people that are watching this, many of us know a little bit about our history, and we started Blaze It Forward back in 2018. And in January 2018, after our son Blaze was disappeared, and we didn't know what happened to him. We were trying to figure out what happened, and it took some time. During that time, we started to think like, what are we going to do? We have so many people that want to help us try to find our son.
I mean, we had 50 people in our house at any given time, day and night.
Yep.
Helping,
missing persons
helping
reports
us.
And people going and looking all over the place. And I think that when we found out that Blaze had been killed, in the midst of devastation and shock, and so many people wanting to help us and give us a big hug and find ways to do something to help us, you and I decided that we wanted to just channel all of that energy from helping us to try to figure out a way that we could help to repair this world. And so we found that Blaze It Forward would be a great way for us to help to motivate other people to do acts of kindness, intentional acts of kindness, giving to organizations that would have meant something to us and to our son. And so that was really the spark that started a whole new pathway for the two of us on working in public speaking and trying to inspire other people to help to make this world a better place in the midst of all the ugliness and tragedy that we went through.
Yeah. We also, like in the beginning, when this became an option for us, I remember you coming to me and saying, what do you think about asking our friends to donate to a local charity, and what should it be? And I was really happy that you had come up with this idea, because I needed to do something more than just be in my own head. And this was a way to get out of my own head, to think about all the things that we could do, that we could motivate people to do, and that we could actually be impactful. So I was thrilled. And then when you came up with the Orangewood suggestion as a local charity, I thought that was genius, because Orangewood helps everybody. And our son's death was something that impacted the entire world. It didn't just impact us, and we wanted to help the entire world be a better place without him here. So we asked our friends if they would make donations to Orangewood on that evening, and that night they crashed the server at Orangewood with the $25,000 that they gave in that 12-hour period of time. And we then became more involved in Orangewood as well as a result of that, which we had not previously been very involved with. So it was a win-win. So, when you're going through a really, really hard time, sometimes just to get out of your own head and do something for somebody else can be life-saving.
Yeah, and I think it was, in some ways, it was life-saving to have a positive channel for us at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, one of our friends recommending that as an option of one that we could put onto that Facebook group that we had, that we still have, that was the Blaze It Forward group. I think we called it, Do Good for Blaze at that time, or Help Us Find Blaze. But we didn't have any communication with Orangewood.
No.
So when we put that on, just saying, please consider doing something good. Here's one option. And then that, within a few hours, people saying, well, we can't even give because their server's down. That was just, I think, a good start to just showing like the impact of philanthropy. Like you can crash a server trying to do something amazing.
Yeah. And when you have the opportunity as well, I mean, we had a platform, and because people were interested in our story. So even strangers started to come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
And wanted to be involved. And like even in our local community, there was so much love towards us in Foothill Ranch at the time. I remember when we came back from the funeral and they had taken blue ribbon, and put it on every single tree in our little city where we lived. And it made us feel really loved.
Yeah.
And like people were thinking about us and our pain and misery at that time. And it helps. It helps to know that you're not alone in this world, and that the things that you do to make the world a better place, that people acknowledge it, they see it, and they care. So, and I think that's everybody, even the people that you don't like. They still care about their community, and they probably care about you because you're part of it. Yeah. So something to think about. We're all part of this interconnected, strange world, and we need to look beyond who we are, what we are, and just be there for other people. Find a way into the humanity of other people. There's so much conflict today too. It's so, I don't know about you, but it's been really hard on me being around all of this dissonance in our world right now.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if it's ever going to be normal again.
I think it will. I mean, everything ebbs and flows, and supporting organizations like Orangewood Foundation, which is focused on foster youth, education for foster youth, homeless children. And, that's a base of people that have a lot of challenges in life. And if you're looking at trying to help to fix a lot of the challenges that you have for people that get into the system and come out with it feeling hopeless, you have an organization that is there to help to change the lives of people that are on the fringe, that are most at risk for probably creating or having challenges with regards to society. And all that's going on right now in the world, the media loves to focus on the negativity, and we've been sucked into all of the negativity because it's what basically gets us riled up. So you turn on the TV or you do your doom scrolling on Instagram every day, like we all have to confess that we do. It's all designed, the master design is for you to get sucked into all those things instead of basically just going out and enjoying the sunshine and going and working on something that's better.
That's right. And we have to kind of keep that in mind too, that, you have a choice. And like in our situation, I mean, we could have dwelled on the negative. We could have, just really sat with that and done absolutely nothing. But we didn't do that. And people thought that was rather unusual. Most people thought it was unusual that we were willing to step up at that moment in time. But what I've tried to express to people, and I've said it a few times, is that for me personally, I felt that doing something positive like what we did and encouraging people to do something good was the only real way that we could have any balance, or that we could somehow fight this insidious hate that seems to be present within a lot of people right now. And the only way to get through it is to offer love and kindness to people unconditionally. So we had that opportunity to put that out there instead of negativity. And I will continue to believe, and I will continue to do that, to create positive content and to encourage people to do good, even in the face of all these difficult things.
Yeah, and that's, why I'm, really proud of you for putting this podcast together and really organizing a way and a vehicle for being able to communicate things that are more important in this world than the majority of what we see going on right now, published and publicized digitally and in the newspapers and everything else.
Yeah.
So, actually for me, the public speaking opportunities that we have had together and going out to organizations and fundraisers to speak to audiences and tell them part of our story and talk about Blaze It Forward is where we've really been able to see a tremendous ripple effect. People are moved by seeing the ability to have the strength to be able to get through tough times. How do you get through it?
Yeah. I'm still struggling with it. I mean, all these years later, it's been 6 years since Blaze's death, and I kind of see like my life like before and after, almost like when Jesus was born. It's like I can't seem to get that moment in time out of my head as like this pivotal moment. I guess it's like that Schrodinger's cat dilemma, where until you actually know what the outcome is, it hasn't happened in your reality. It hasn't happened yet.
I don't know what that is.
Well, it's the cat in the box. You don't know whether the cat is alive or dead. And it's both things because you don't know what it is. And at that point in time, we didn't know whether Blaze was here or gone. Our reality suggested that he was still here. As far as we knew, we didn't have anything proof that he wasn't. But then as soon as we learned the truth, that moment when we became aware was this pivotal moment in my life where I had to reevaluate like everything that I believed about the world, everything. Because when you participate in a system like this, in a society, this rich, dynamic, beautiful world that we live in, and something like earth-shattering happens that like pulls you out of the positive, your positive place in that world, you have to kind of re-inject yourself into it and find a way to be productive and to be positive and to feel good about what you're doing. So at this point in time, and this is what I've told you too, is that I have to be involved in passion projects. I have to be involved in doing things that uplift me and feed my soul. Mm-hmm. I cannot just sit at a desk and write complaints for a law firm. That's not going to happen right now because I am too focused right now on creating a legacy for Blaze, for our family, that we contributed and that we made an impact in this world. I think that to me is giving me purpose right now.
Yeah, which is great.
So, you have to do something, especially as an empty nester. And I know a lot of my friends, and your friends as well, empty nesters now. And I've heard people saying that, especially a lot of the wives, that they don't really know like what their place is anymore. Their kids are gone, husbands are still working. They're kind of like in that kind of a weird place where they feel unfulfilled. And if you're feeling that way, the best thing to do in my mind is to get involved in something bigger than you. I mean, that seems to be the one thing that you have control over that can take you out of your own head.
Mm-hmm.
That seems
Amen.
Yes. So is there anything else that we should know about Gideon Bernstein before we end our episode today?
Just do more yoga.
Do more yoga. Absolutely. I think I need to be doing more yoga. I've actually just started back at it again, and I love it.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's been great having you here as my guest today. It's always fun with Gideon because he's my husband. I know all the answers before he says them, sort of. He surprises me every once in a while. And I know that you have a lot of really great insight as not only a lay leader in the Jewish community here, but also legacy planning, philanthropy, and even advising organizations on what to do with their investment. Like you were on the investment committee was the first thing that you did when you started in philanthropy. And that's important too. Like if you have a skill, if you have a background in something that could help an organization, use that to help the organization.
Yeah.
Don't recreate a wheel of something that you don't know how to do and have to learn. If you're a portfolio manager, go help an organization get their finances figured out. And hey, if you're a teacher, go find out if they need help with programming for children or whatever it may be. But just use your particular skill set, and you can be such a great asset to these organizations, as Gideon has shown.
Yeah, or recruit other people with good skill sets. So
I think that's really important. Delegate is what he's trying to say.
That's
delegate,
right,
delegate,
I
delegate.
was recruited when the first time I got involved. I was recruited as a kid into leadership. So it's finding other people that you can recruit into it also.
That's right. I want to thank you for being my guest today. It's Gideon Bernstein, my wonderful husband, and Brandy's daddy. Brandy's our pup. I don't know if you can see her. She's sitting in Gideon's lap right now, if you're watching. That's been another episode of Pep Talks with Jeanne. And once again, I would like to thank you, Gideon, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It was my pleasure. And we will have you on again, I'm sure.
Sounds great.
I know. It's been fun. Hashtag Blaze It Forward is a campaign that I started with my family to repair the world with kindness in honor of our son Blaze, who was murdered in 2018. You can learn more about Blaze and how you can make a difference in this world at www.blazebernstein.org or on our Facebook group, hashtag Blaze It Forward. Special thank yous to all of the volunteers who have helped me with my philanthropic endeavors, and today that is a thank you to my camera operator and audio technician, Eli Moskowitz. I don't know if you can see him. He's right over here. And we also have volunteers Bailey Kaufman and Helen Harlan too. And a special shout out to my son, Jay Bernstein, for the incredible music that you hear at our intro and outro. And that has been another episode of Pep Talks with Jeanne. Thank you all again for joining me. I'm Jeanne Pepper, and this has been another edition of Pep Talks with Jeanne.